Hey, hello, you guys. So I'm on a bit of a different journey here, and I'm inviting you to join me on this. So you're invited to be part of this new this new journey. Uh, you know, Many of you know I'm in recovery, and I've been in recovery from alcoholism and addiction for many years, and over those years um, I have looked at a lot of spiritual paths. I really have. I mean, I consider myself to be a spiritual student, you know, to say I have an interest is maybe an understatement. It's more like a passion, and 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 I would have to say that sometimes, in my opinion, I've been a bit of a bit on the uptake or slow learner, if you will, and because it isn't just about learning; it's about becoming, or awakening, and I've had what I would call a persistent ego that was often eager to stand in the path of of progress, if you will. And I hesitate to call it progress, but because I don't think it is the learning as much of it as it is an awakening. But there was a fellow years ago, William James, and William James said that many of us had would have a spiritual experience of the educational variety, and so I think that many people have big awakenings, and where they're like, oh my God, no pun intended, and I think there's guys like me that it's it's a slow process of awakening, and I don't think it's ever over. I think that it just continues to percolate and to be nurtured, and this last couple of years I've really became aware of this new relationship with, and it, we call it God, but I think that's because we don't know what else to call it. You know, so it's not a I don't consider my path a religious path of any particular belief. I've certainly learned lots from the teachings of Jesus, and I've learned lots from the, and from teachings of Buddha, lots, from the Hindu faith, and our native spirituality. I spent years in the sweat lodge. I've gone to Peru, and I mean, I've just been a student my whole life, really, and I've studied really two things. I think the spirituality of life, but I've also studied, my own the inner workings of the mind and the inner workings of the ego, so I don't know who it was, Socrates or Plato, I forget which, who said, know thyself, because the biggest obstacle to I think all of our awakening is our own ego, our own self, and it took me a long time to recognize that I couldn't really trust the the conditioned beliefs that were in this system. I couldn't rely on that to have a contented, because all I really wanted was to be comfortable in my own skin, to be at peace. The goal had really been to be at peace, to feel complete, and I couldn't. That was denied me for many years because I came at it from a place of management, and I realized that I couldn't manage. I had to surrender and awaken, and so many of you know that I'm a big proponent of the 12 steps and the recovery program in AA and NA and CA. I mean, it's amazing, open to so many, and it actually has depth and width. It really does. There's amazing possibilities for everyone to live happy, joyous, and free. That's what we're talking about. To know peace, it's, and to have our fear removed, to not regret our past. I mean, it's just in that program. And the beauty of it is it's so concise and so followable by everybody, and the results are measurable, by everybody who actually does it. So I love that. I really do. And I just finished reading, 100 days, or no, 365 days of a book that was kind of based in that philosophy. And now I just thought I would do something a little different. And but I'm reading from the Tao-Te-Ching. The Tao is this book was originally authored by lao-tzu. They say lao-tzu. We'll learn more about who lao-tzu is if you come with me on this journey. And lao-tzu, was credited to being the author of this. And I suggest you get a copy, and we'll go on this one together. There's 81 very short writings, and I did the first one yesterday, but I'm going to do it again, because also in the back there's a kind of a what we'll call the author's notes on the writing. So we're going to look at both of these. So join me. I'm inviting you to hang with me for the next, however long it takes to go through this. And I might do it every day, and I might not, but we'll, hang with me, and we'll do it. And I'd love to hear your comments. What do you think of this? Have you gone out to get a copy? You can order it, I believe, on Amazon or whatever. And if you've got a copy, it really is a spiritual staple in everybody's library. This one, and so the Tao is known as the way. Often the way, and the way to one, the way that the way to peace, the way. So here we are, just starts with number 1 in here. And I read the foreword yesterday. If you want to go back and look at that, I read the foreword, and I might actually put the foreword in the comments that I read, if you'd like to see that. So he says, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnamable is the eternal real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Wow. Yes. So I'm going to go now to kind of the second half of the book and look at what we'll call the author's notes. So Stephen Mitchell wrote, a little bit of his interpretation of that. And so we're doing this together. This book is I'm not an expert in this book. I'm a student here, right? Notes, chapter 1, describing the indescribable, teaching the unteachable, pointing the way to the way. What does lao-tzu think he is doing here? It can't be done. No way. Hence Pao-Chu, poet and stand-up comedian, wrote, "He who talks doesn't know. He who knows doesn't talk." That is what lao-tzu told us in a book of 5,000 words. If he was the one who knew, how could he have been such a blabbermouth? That's the problem with spiritual teachers. They have to be blabbermouths. But their words are, in brackets he says, in the traditional Buddhist metaphor, fingers pointing to the moon. If you watch the finger, you can't see the moon. How meticulous the great masters had to be. A monk asked Matsu, why do you teach? Mind is Buddha. Matsu said, to stop a baby from crying. The monk said, when the crying has stopped, what then? Matsu said, then I teach not mind, not Buddha. The monk said, how about someone who isn't attached to either? Matsu said, I will tell him not beings. I would tell him not beings. The monk said, and what if you meet a man unattached to all things? What would you tell him? Matsu said, I would just let him experience the great Tao. I would just let him experience the great Tao. In fact, the truth is right before your eyes, right under your noses, right under our noses. So simple that every child understands it. We try that again. The truth, in fact, the truth is right before your eyes, right under your nose, right under our noses. So simple that every child understands it. And yet, as Bucky said, the further you enter into it, the deeper it is. Where is the way to the way? What a question. I'm just reading from Lao-tzu's Tao-Te-Ching, and this is a interpretation by Stephen Mitchell. So thanks for joining. Still, for complicated minds, drastic measures are needed. Lao-tzu's book was written as a response out of grandmotherly kindness, according to the oldest biography. Lao-tzu lived for a long time in the country of Chou, C-H-O-U. But seeing its decline, he departed. When he reached the frontier, the guard said, since you are going away, sir, could you write a book to teach me the art of living? Thereupon Lao-tzu wrote his book about the Tao, and departed. Wow. This is legend, but it is an accurate description of the way in which true teachings happen. He who knows doesn't talk, but words are no hindrance for him. He uses them as he would use gardening tools. When someone asks, he answers. The law that can be told is not the eternal law, is not the eternal Tao. Let me try that again. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. I'm going to put my glasses on. Here we go. The text reads, the Tao that can be Taoed, one meaning of the Tao being to express, is not the eternal Tao. Other possible renderings, the way that can be weighed is not the eternal way. The force that can be forced is not the eternal force. You realize the mystery, infinitely marvelous, yet as ordinary as sunlight. Impossible to know, yet as easy as touching your nose when you wash your face. This source is called darkness. Because none of our senses can perceive it, it is also called light, because the less we obstruct it, the more radiant we are. The gateway to all understanding. In order to understand, you have to remain in the darkness of not knowing. Huh. Wow. Well, that's his short interpretation of that first, and the first chapter in this little book, which I'm just going to read again. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnamable is the eternal real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mastery. Caught in desire, you only see the manifestations. yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Beautiful, beautiful. So we're on a journey here together, you guys, with the Tao-Te-Ching. And, you know, a lot of what I've done over the last years is talk about recovery. And recovery, you know, in the 12-step world is a spiritual path. And nothing in this reading that will take us away from that spiritual path. The idea of building a relationship or experiencing a relationship with consciousness, with our higher power, with God as we understand Him, is spoken about in this writing over and over again. So that's the deal. So love it if you join me, and your comments, any thoughts about what I've just read, I'd love to hear them. And that's it. Love you guys. And for me, this feels a bit risky. It's like, holy Toledo, because it isn't like the 12-step, you know, teaching, which I know backwards and forwards. This is a real journey for me of exploring. So I'm glad you're with me on it. Thanks. Love you guys. Remember to sit quietly, meditate. Okay?